Hi, my name is Chris Murray, and I'm the Technical Marketing Manager for the Unreal Engine Enterprise Division. Welcome to this webinar. This is the first in a series of webinars dedicated to the Unreal Engine for architectural design and visualization. The Unreal Engine has been used for almost 20 years to make some of the world's best video games, but don't worry, you don't have to be a game developer to use the Unreal Engine. With the growing importance of real-time, virtual and augmented reality experiences, the use of the Unreal Engine is on the rise in architecture and product development. In fact, a recent survey conducted by CG Architect identified the Unreal Engine as the fourth most used production renderer for design visualization, and nearly 30% of the respondents said they were experimenting with the Unreal Engine. We recognize this too. That's why Unreal Engine Enterprise exists. We are solely focused on the processes and workflows that are specific to the needs of enterprise customers, whether it's in design visualization, manufacturing, automotive aerospace, or simulation and training. We are here to facilitate and develop workflows and pipelines that allow you to put the Unreal Engine to work for you. Whether you are an architect, designer, visualization specialist, principal, or CAD director, this webinar series will help you and your firm learn about the possibilities real-time workflows bring to the design process and how you can get up and running with the Unreal Engine. This first webinar is an overview focusing on how the Unreal Engine can bring emotion, mood, and atmosphere of offline quality rendering to the real-time, immersive, and interactive experiences of virtual and augmented reality. Today, our guest instructor, Fabrice Borelli, will talk about three things: the advantage of working in real time with the Unreal Engine over traditional offline rendering tools, how interactivity can change the way we approach traditional design and visualization tasks, and how virtual and augmented reality is ushering in a new era of visual communication. And now I'd like to introduce Fabrice Borelli. Fabrice is a well-known architect and visualization specialist. His clients include Google, the International Olympic Committee, Nike, Bentley, and Thomas Heatherwick, just to name a few. Even though Fabrice has been creating offline rendered images for years, he only recently started using the Unreal Engine, producing some amazing results in a short time. He has already been on the journey of exploration and learning that you are embarking on, and now his experience is really invaluable. Before we begin, there's a couple of classroom housekeeping things I'd like to cover so that you can get the most out of this webinar. On the right side of the screen, you have the ability to ask questions and chat both with other people that are attending the webinar and with Fabrice and myself, as we are both live monitoring the webinar. Yes, it's true, we recorded this webinar because we want to make sure that we stay on track and respect your time. But both of us are here and present within the room, and you can ask us questions at any time. Future webinars in this series will be live sessions and more technical in nature. They'll be covering topics from data import to lighting and materials workflows. We have a short survey after the webinar. Your feedback is important to us and will help us guide ourselves as we prepare the next 3 sessions. So without any further delay, let me hand things over to Fabrice and we'll get this thing started.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, everybody. So today we're going to talk about this very exciting subject of architectural visualization in Unreal Engine. I'm going to take you through some of the projects I've been working on lately. Some were personal projects and some were collaborations with people from Arte Factory in Paris on this lobby scene, for example. We are going to look at a beautiful project by Tadao Ando in Japan called the Church of Light, and look at some lighting examples in there, and then the Glass House by Philip Johnson, looking at some landscape and a kitchen project, more of an interior design maybe angle here. So just to reiterate what Chris was mentioning in the introduction, we are going to cover these fundamental examples in this first webinar here to really lay a firm understanding of these concepts that we're going to build on later webinars. So these 3 ideas here are the idea of real time. These things will greatly changed the way we've been working traditionally, and I'll cover that in a little bit more detail just following. So the real-time interactivity and this idea of virtual reality and how that's going to help us in our work. So what we're dealing with here is this idea of how do we communicate and sell our design using these technologies and using VR, and it's an age-old problem that we've been sort of dealing with for maybe well over 100 years, and it's really beginning to impact the way not only we sell, but also the way we design, the way we actually do our work. And I'm talking obviously about 3D and creating images. So where we're coming from really as sort of maybe designers, architects, landscape designers, engineers, or product designers, or any kind of sort of manufactured element of design or product will always come back to the fact that we've got to generate some blueprints to send to production, and that's really what the designer's job consists of we need to make things for real. So this, for example, is a plan which is obviously very dry. It doesn't sort of portray any feeling of or give a sense of what it's like to be there in any way. So there's always this difficulty to engage clients and partners in the vision, in what really we're trying to sell, which is going to be the space in the end, or the object that will become part of people's lives and affect them greatly. So this industry of visualization has been alive and very active over the last 20 or so years. This is how long I've been doing it. Started in 1996, and we've been leveraging the ever-growing power of computers, the amount of memory and processing powers that these things can now handle is absolutely enormous, and also the level of artistry has been developed throughout. Obviously, video games, the movies have reached levels of realism and are now able to portray and to communicate a level of emotion which is unparalleled. Really, the limit of it all is just our imagination. So here we've worked for we've used these power, and the softwares that have been available to us have been incredible, and the amount of geometry that these things can handle, the amount of realism, and the speed at which all this happens is well, the beautiful images we see every day are witnesses of that. So what's the problem? If it's all so rosy, well, here is an illustration of the process that we tend to go through when we create for 3D visualization. In across industries, we start off with whether it's a 2D or a 3D blueprint, a model which has been sort of done perhaps roughly, perhaps accurately, and then that kind of tends to go from, for example, AutoCAD to 3ds Max, where we'll do some modeling and organize the model and maybe set up some viewpoints, and then we'll have to give texture and light to this project, and a lot of design, a lot of decisions happen at that stage as well. And then that then goes into traditionally another package like V-Ray, where we'll start rendering. So effectively we'll have to sort of press the render button, and then all that data gets sent over to the renderer, which then goes into another compositing package with special effects added on top. So here Unreal Engine is sitting very much across a very broad spectrum of this process, enabling us to look at eventually having a lot of this happen in just one package. For example, the rendering happens in real time once the lighting is baked, of course, and the compositing can also begin to happen in Unreal Engine now, and the special effects are definitely in there. The 3D modeling, there's many packages, and it's a very complex process that can be depending on the complexity of the building, of course, but this is something that currently the enterprise team are looking at and are working very hard to smooth this process out and to make it as seamless as possible both ways as well, which is very interesting. So it's something to really look out for in the very near future. So this is just to illustrate a little bit where the engine sits. What we're talking about today is really in the area of the rendering, where we're kind of beginning to just take this process out, and that's when we're dealing with real time, and when we deal with texture and lighting, which is very at the core of the visualization process. This is also something that is going to sit in one package, which is very exciting for a lot of us. So what is real-time technology then? Well, as I like to call it, real-time is effectively real world. I'm just showing you here a little movie of Norman Foster drawing in his studio, and that is real-time. He's pressing the pencil down on the paper and the mark appears instantly. The world around us is real-time. And this is what we expect. This is what we're used to in our daily life. So when we work from a computer, we expect this same real world time, effectively, which is instant, to happen. And this is a technology that has, of course, been developed by the video game industry, and it's interesting here in this article on Wired that Bart Ginkels, who currently designs the Google headquarters, thinks architecture should be more like video games in the sense that we can build our dreams using this technology and then we can inhabit it through play. I recommend you read the article where he describes this in more detail. So let's jump in the interface here, and I'm going to show you, to illustrate really what it means, real time. We have witnessed in the last couple of years, maybe, dramatic improvement in the hardware and in the software, where the traditional offline rendering technology is being almost equaled by the real-time technology. And so effectively we have here in front of us what could be nearly the quality of a V-Ray render that would sort of take a number of maybe a half an hour or an hour, depending on how powerful your computer is. But this is today completely rendered in front of you as I'm moving around the space. There is no delay between me having to change the camera angle and the image being rendered in front of me. This is effectively the video game technology that I was mentioning just before, but as I'm moving around, it's really updating absolutely in real time. So what this means for us is that we can begin to explore spaces just like we would do in a video game, except we don't sort of meet monsters and destroy. I always say these are optional, but effectively what this means in the design process is that as soon as I've found a satisfying camera angle, I can literally, as if I was in the space today, take my phone out and take a picture. Here I can just save this picture directly on my hard drive and begin sharing it, for example, and send it to my clients, send it to my partners. I can also render these extremely high resolution, over 60,000 pixels across. I mean, this is also something that would cost, time, a lot of time, 60,000 pixel image. This is able to output it in a couple of minutes. Now, just to illustrate the point here, that in this restaurant area we've got very highly detailed geometry that we wouldn't necessarily not be expecting from video game technology at this stage. The quality of the light is really smooth, is very high res, the reflections are all sort of there and sort of going through the glass here, but the amount of geometry is not really a limit anymore. So this is something that is very new. It's unprecedented, I think, in the field of visualization. So just to illustrate here, I'm actually sitting in the interface of Unreal Engine, and I'm just moving around with my keyboard as just as I'm talking to you. So what we have the ability to do also is to create movies, and the way these are done is that if I just sort of show you here, we've got the cameras actually in the scene, and these have got an animation attached to them through this sort of sequencer facility here, and we just sort of press play, and the camera, the movie is actually going to play. So I'll just sort of activate my camera and start from the beginning here. If I hide all the sort of game gizmos here, I can just actually play the camera exactly as it will be played in on my hard drive. This I can choose to save these images as they're being played, and the quality of these are practically sort of equaling that. We've got some sort of post-processing effect here. There's some sort of bloom on the light here. All these things that the movie industry have been using for or photography or film has been using for a number of years. Now we can replicate these and use them in real time without delay, and they greatly enhance the quality, the level of emotional impact we can have on our audience. And of course, once I've saved my movie, I can start sharing it, and immediately there's no, if I make a change, I can just sort of make that change and rerun the movie, and 2 minutes later the movie is ready. So this is incredibly powerful and saves thousands of hours literally in the rendering process, or the complication and the number of software suites we might need to use, and so on. Of course, we can output this movie into another package if we need to, but this is really, I think, the first time we're able to achieve this kind of quality straight out of a package. Another project I'd like to use to illustrate this idea of working in real time is the Church of Light by Tadao Ando. It's a small building in Japan, and it's a very appropriate name because I'd like to sort of illustrate this idea of working with light in architecture, and compare it a little bit to the movie of Norman Foster drawing with his pencil on paper, where effectively in architecture light and space are very much linked, and it's a little bit the analogy of the light being our pencil and the space being the paper. And here it's a very much such a strong feature of the design. We're actually able to manipulate the sun in real time and to kind of place ourselves in there and move the light and see exactly what the effects would be in effect with this project. It was sort of a very great importance, the way the sun is going to hit that wall and create a shadow, and the way that sort of very sort of spiritual space is going to be the theater of light playing with the architecture. There's another side of this project. I'll just sort of take you through quickly the rest of the project here. We've got this sort of nice outside area with sort of striking architecture and curves. And again, Unreal Engine's really able to show us, to let us show that in its best effect. So here it's another side of the project where I'll just illustrate here how we've got a very strong feature of this. This is actually a very well-known photo of this project, and the beam up here is casting a very strong shadow on the wall at the back here, and we're able to sort of manipulate again the sun and the light, and to really play with the way the shadow works. And it's a very strong element of design that I think it would have been very difficult to work with our traditional offline. Here we're really able to play in real time, as if the space is our canvas, and the light of the sun is the tool that we use to play and design. So now we are going to look at the meaning of interactive technology. So again, I've caught a little film, and this time it's Frank Gehry designing in his studio here, and it's quite interesting to again make the parallel with the real world, where this is what I call interactive, in the sense that people are taking a piece of cardboard and they're cutting it with scissors and using sellotape, and this is the actual process that they use to design. Like Frank Gehry is actually looking at it now and pondering over it, and he obviously looks very concerned, and they're collaborating. I'd like to really sort of reiterate the fact that in our interaction with the computer, we are effectively wanting to recreate these real world situations where we're able to look at an object and interact with it. So what that translates to in sort of our realm of interaction with the computer is that we will expect something to react when we act upon it. In just the same way. While I'm also here sort of getting ahead of myself when we talk about VR and AR here, is that you see that the interaction happens within the realm of the physical world, and they use their bodies, they use their hands, they're sort of looking, they're turning the model around. Here he's sort of using his hands to sort of place an object, and he doesn't like it and throw it away. I think it's quite fun, and it just seems all completely obvious to us, but it's important to point out within this presentation. So here again, I'd like to use another project to show you some of the capacities, some of the quality that we're able to achieve in Unreal Engine, and also some of the interactive capacities that we have at our disposal to play and to design and to communicate with our partners and clients. So this project, it was for a kitchen in a traditional sort of Victorian house, and I'd like to sort of just point out some of the very high quality, sort of highly detailed features that we're able to illustrate in this project, which is really again reiterating the point that the Unreal Engine is really now able to rival to a very large extent some of the offline renderers that we've got, and then we're able to really play in real time and also now to interact. So just to show you the things, for example, we can do with the worktop here. If I was with a client and we could look at, for example, the different materials, it's very, very easy to just completely change the materials here and to see what that looks like. There's no delay, there's no need to press render, we can just completely see our options completely easily and freely, and so this is in fact interactive in the sense that I'm just sort of changing the material, throwing it onto this object, and the material is changing immediately. Another incredibly powerful feature of the software here, what we have here is sort of these interactive materials, and so I'm able to sort of maybe change the lightness, of this wood. Even I can sort of decide if I'm going to work a little bit on the reflection here, just whether I wanted sort of very shiny, with this kind of lacquer finish here, or completely matte, to give it a different look. And this is incredibly powerful, and it's literally takes just a few seconds. And this I'd like to really point out that this particular type of reflection, this sort of blurry reflection, is what we'd call in a rendering jargon, would actually take a long time. It's very costly to render these reflections, and here we've got them in real time. And so while we're there, I'm just sort of pointing out that the quality of the materials, the fine detail we're able to see, and the light, the quality of the render of the light hasn't got much to envy to our offline renders. So that's regarding materials. Another feature we've got here is, for example, these lights here. The lighting is completely interactive in the sense that I can just sort of turn these lights on and see the effects straight away. I'll just select these and turn them on, and similarly I can sort of begin to play with the intensity and see what that looks like. And in the realm of lighting design, this is going to be incredibly powerful, to just sort of be able to turn lights on and off without any need for rendering, again without any need for post-production, just see what that effect is like. And once we're done, we're done. It's we just sort of save that, share it, or try it in VR, and we can communicate with the actual, as close to what the thing will look like in the end. So I think this is really greatly going to change the way we design and interact with our teams and clients. And finally, I'd like to show some other features really touching on the incredible power of the software here. But the interactive feature here is again the idea that we want to try and portray a mood, an atmosphere, a sense of life surrounding our buildings or in our buildings. Here I'm using the Philip Johnson glass house in Connecticut in America, and we've got a landscape, so this is an exterior scene, and we've got this sort of the ability to have the leaves flowing, so it's giving this sense of life, and the sun, the shadow is also moving. We've got little sort of cute little flowers swaying in the wind here, and it's all to a very great degree of realism, of atmosphere, and we've got an enormous amount of data here in the scene, trees, very high poly, and the house sort of sits here in the landscape, and we've got a very strong sense of atmosphere. So if I just go into the interface, and we're able to use this incredibly powerful foliage tool, which was going to enable us to just literally paint very much in this sort of interactive manner. So we just sort of take this tool here, and I'm going to just reduce my brush a little bit and just paint some vegetation that I've kind of picked here in this bit of the interface. And I can just literally, as I am looking around, just put a few of the and see what that's like. If I don't like it, I can just sort of delete it very easily. And it's a sort of a new way to new way to design, in the sense that normally we'd have to either make a drawing, an abstract, and kind of just look at, try and express our ideas in a way which is not so close to what the final product will be like. But here it takes absolutely no time. We can literally share this with our clients, do this with our clients next to us, with our teams, and look at the result, and just literally kind of go in and feel like what it's going to be like. It's very clear. There's no compromise and no risk of misunderstanding when you're literally looking at the environment that we're designing. So this is a very compelling piece, and I'd like to just maybe show as well how we can manipulate the sun here in just similarly that we did to the Church of Light. So I just sort of grab the sun, and I'm able to just sort of move the light. So this is really showing the interactivity, maybe sort of to kind of show a different atmosphere and a different time of the day, or just to kind of illustrate what things would be like for ourselves while we're designing and while we're sort of wanting to create a strong sense of place, a strong atmosphere. Here we've also got the sort of the clouds slowly moving in the sky, and it's really giving us a strong sense of place, a strong sense of being there, which is something, again, to reiterate, that I think has been very much missing from the design workflow up until now. So now on to our third sort of big idea and concept is the all-encompassing virtual reality and augmented reality. So of course we've heard so much about virtual reality, and so what is it? Well, it is really all of the above, what we've just been talking about: interactive, real-time, all these things happening instantly and reacting to our action upon the world, but it happens within the realms of these goggles we can wear on our eyes. So obviously the standard way is to look at a screen and play on the screen using controllers, and the technology, including mobile technology and these new headsets developed by HTC Vive. Here we've got Oculus and Sony, and the Samsung Gear VR, which works on mobile, and many others developed by Google, and other small and large companies have developed these headsets, which work effectively by giving us one image per eye, giving us the illusion of something in 3D in stereo, effectively. So we get this sense of distance, we get this sense of real world, of almost something physical, I would say. And the addition to that is that here we've got a stereo in our vision, so for the eyes. We've got also 3D sound. So effectively what that means is that when a sound happens, it can happen all around us, whether it's behind us, above us, and it really gives us a very strong sense of presence, of being there. And what you can see is on this image here is the lady is actually using these controllers, which are really beginning to act like our hands. So some of these controllers give us the option to pick up and to use our hands, our fingers, and it really is becoming something which is showing how we can begin to use our body. So I refer back to the little video that I showed you of Frank Gehry when they were sort of using their body, using their hands and turning the model around, and it was a physical interaction with an object. This is really what we're tending to do, to use our bodies, and the potential of this is huge in the sense that are we meant to sit at our desk, staring at a screen, using a mouse, effectively clicking? The only thing that needs to be moving is our index finger. I personally don't think so, and I really think that this, to some form, this is, remember, the very first generation headset that we're seeing. It only came about a year ago, today in 2017. So this is what virtual reality means for us, and let's jump into the interface again and see how we can use that within Unreal Engine. So here I am inside the model of the kitchen, and I'll just click out of that, and so I'm actually in the it's what I'm saying. I am immersed in the project, and it feels like I'm actually in there. So what's really interesting is that I'm able to scale by using these two controllers in front of me to one-to-one. So here it feels like I'm standing inside the space, and it feels looks very incredibly real. But also by doing the same pinch movement that we're used to now on our phones and on the iPad, I'm able to sort of scale this down and to look down at effectively what is now an incredibly detailed model of the kitchen. And I can see all the little details, all the materials are incredibly accurate. I can turn it around, move it, literally go in and stick my head. So this is something that we would normally pay a lot of money to have a model, 1 to 20, 1 to 50 model of a space like this. But now effectively we can just have it there within in practically no time. It's just a matter of putting the model in and putting some materials on, and we can literally jump in. So now what I'm also able to do, and this is a little bit experimental at this stage, so but I'm able to access my contents just like I was in the interface, and I can just literally grab a chair off my content browser, and I can start manipulating this piece of furniture in VR, and it's as if I am there. So it takes a little bit to get used to these tools, and again, as I said, they're a little bit experimental at this stage, but it's incredibly compelling to be able to do that effectively. So let's see if I can choose a different material, there you go, and I'll change back my worktop in wood, and I can just see what that looks like, and change it back to another material in gray, for example, and then this is the thing about virtual reality. It's quite difficult to describe. You really have to experience it for yourself. So finally, to give you an example of what augmented reality is something which we might have seen before on our phones, but again, the amazing thing is that this is something that we can now do inside of Unreal Engine for free, effectively, and just throw our model in there. And by using a piece of a card with a logo on it, the computer is able to match the movement. You can see the card there underneath, the movement of the card, and apply that to the 3D model. So it feels like handling the model. It's really, you can see that the movement, I'm actually sort of turning it around with my hands, and it's really the nearest thing to having the actual model in front of you, because it's a very physical thing, that it's got this sort of body like experience. So if I go back to this Church of Light example, the reason why I would sort of choose to use Unreal Engine for architectural visualization today is really the idea that, well, first of all, it's free. It's quite an attractive price point, but it's really the sort of the render quality we're able to achieve. I'm just sort of walking around the project now, and the level of realism is really breathtaking. I would say I can't stop being amazed by the beauty of the light we're able to achieve, and the materials and so on. So the level of interaction, the level of quality we can get to in the materials as well is incredibly powerful. The material editor takes a little bit of getting used to, but once you get the hang of it, it's very, very easy and very user-friendly and very, very powerful. So in all, it's different workflow than offline rendering, and it's quite simple once you get the hang of it. And the other thing is that there's a very, very large community of people using it online. There's an amazing amount of YouTube tutorials and on forum, and Epic Games have put together this thing called Answer Hub, which has got the answer to practically every problem you could possibly have. There's a lot of courses that some of which that I provide, and as you've seen, the ability to just jump into VR is very, very easy. You can output your projects to your client and send them at no cost. And to be honest, I think it's really becoming the industry standard. It's the software that a lot of people are using today. So yeah, it's definitely my choice. What's next? I'll hand back to Chris for now, and there you go.
Thanks, Fabrice, and thanks to everyone who joined us on our webinar. Hopefully you got some good information and you got some of your questions answered. If not, feel free to reach out to us on the email that's on the screen, and we'll be happy to try and provide you with any information that we can to help you get started doing some great things in Unreal Engine. Also, please keep an eye out for the survey that's going to be coming your way after this webinar. We'd love to hear what you think, and it'll help us craft our upcoming webinars. So I'm going to go ahead and close things out. I'm going to end the session now, and we want to thank you for your time. Have a great day, everyone.